start with a small Nishringadev Kirtan. Why Nishringadev, I asked. He said, well, because to ask for the protection for all the devotees and for the blessings for this weekend. And of course, also for all the persons that are presently struggling with the pandemic disease, COVID-19. So it's always good to ask for protection because we're all very small. If I could just find my other cartel, yeah, then I will just do a small kirtan. You can please unmute yourself. No, not unmute. Mute yourself. Stay muted because otherwise everything becomes cacophonic. But feel free to join. I'm just going to sing it one time. Namaste Narasringaya Praladadayine Hiranyakashipu Vakshaha Shilatamkanakalaye Ito Nishringo Bharato Nishringo Yato Yato Yamitado Nishringo Maya Nishringo Hidaya Nishringo Nishringa Madim Sharanam Prapade Tava Karakamala Varena Kama Bhutta Shrindam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Nrsingadev 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 Jaya Nrsingadev Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Bhakta Prahlad Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Gauranitai 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 Shri Shri Gauranitai Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Patita Pavana Prabhupada Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jai Gurudev Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo CKD Nectar Retreat Weekend Ki Jai Assembled Devotees Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Haribo. The weekend is already successful. What do you think? Okay, so our first esteemed speakers, which I begged to get bio details of, because I knew they would be very impressive. So let me introduce, I don't know it by heart, the list of services is so long. And I did have the pleasure a long time ago to be with you two, Ekachakra Prabhu and Jahnava Mata. Actually, I remembered when I saw your bio that I was actually probably present at your initiation in New Mayapur, in France. Yes. Yeah. So let me just, I mean, if I read the whole thing, we'll already have 20 minutes. But I would want to definitely, because I know Srila Gurudev is so proud of these two devotees. That's just in another stratosphere, how proud he must be of them. So, okay, so let me start with Ekachakra Prabhu. He left, so it's good. You can be humble in the corner. Oh, he's back. Hari Paul. Okay. Hare Krishna. It's so good to see you both. I'm so ecstatic just to know what you all did for Krishna consciousness. So Ekachakra is born in France in 1961. He joined in 1987. This is the real history lessons. Pay attention, it's very important. So he took initiation of Srila Gurudev in Mayapur in 1990, became a Brahmin in 1992. Then he started, he already started his missionary work in China, which I was 10 days with them also in China a long time ago. And he became Srila Gurudev's personal assistant whenever he would visit China. Then he became, this is a whole long list, and some of it is coupled with his lovely wife, Jahnava Devidasi. Let's see, it's mostly involving in the very, very important translation and production of the Chinese, the Srila Prabhupada's books in Chinese. And this is already mind-boggling to me. I tried to learn Chinese for a few months and I could not do it. So they translated the whole, his wife mainly, Jahnava, you translated, let's see, let's swoop to her. She translated here. In 1995, she started translating Srila Prabhupada's books in Chinese, all the small books, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Krishna book, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, working on the 11th canto. I mean, I don't even know what to say more after that. It's like, wow. And then she, of course, got initiated. She spent, she also left her country. She went to Sweden for the BBT to translate Bhagavad Gita there, and her husband was there supporting her. And yeah, they're also great preachers. I mean, I could list all of it, but it would, you know, be really another 10 minutes. So, dear devotees, what should I do? Dhruva Prabhu? Should I say the whole thing or should I let them speak? Or because they may be too embarrassed if I read the whole thing.
Maybe we can let them speak now, and I'll send out the biodatas on TKG Nectar sometime soon.
Yeah, do that. Please do that. Is that okay with you, dear God brother and God sister? Yes? Okay. I mean, look at in the back of them. Is this Chinese books?
It's a virtual background.
Really? Oh, I was thinking these are all the Chinese books of Srila Prabhupada. But anyway, you can imagine it's just about that many that they've translated and produced and distributed. And Jahnava presently is heading up 2 preaching centers in Taiwan. And I think, if I remember well, about 8 in mainland China, coaching and leading about 200 devotees. Please tell us about your realizations and your memories of His Divine Grace, Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami.
You first.
No,
you
first. She asked.
Ask Ekachakra first.
Ladies first.
No.
Yeah, we already embarrassed them. That's what you get when you read biodatas. They're already stumped. Anyway, get over it. Get the nectar out. We want to hear.
Okay, I will start because Jahnava is too embarrassed to speak. She always thinks that her English is not good enough to express herself. She wrongly thinks like that. In any case, I can say a few things about my personal interaction with Srila Gurudev, which is mostly happened in mainland China, around the China mission. When I first I joined ISKCON ashram in Hong Kong in 1987, in those days there was no preaching happening in China. There was no centers there. There were no devotees in mainland China. A couple of mainland Chinese devotees had come to Hong Kong, were living and working in Hong Kong, but were not very active devotees. So I joined in Hong Kong, and I joined in August 1987, and Srila Gurudev came to visit the Hong Kong temple in October. October was the opening of the Hong Kong temple. And the first time I met him, he actually was very, very strict with me first couple of days. There was a gathering, of course. Everybody was expecting Gurudev, Kirtan. He comes into the room and he sits down on the Vyasasan. And one devotee from Hong Kong, Narayana, our god brother, he gives me a garland and he says, go and give the garland to Gurudev. Go and offer the garland. So I go, I offer the garland, but not knowing the etiquette, I just turned around and walked back to my place to sit down. And as I turned around, Gurudev noticed I was not going to offer obeisances or anything. So he snapped his fingers and he called me and he says, offer obeisances. So that was my first interaction with Gurudev. He was already starting his training. And then the next day was a festival. I think it was Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day. And they had arranged for prasadam to be served. This was a big hall in the ashram. The temple was not yet open. And there was a corner for Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers. And there was about 8 or 10 of them. And plates had already been put down, paper plates with prasadam. And Srila Gurudev and his godbrothers sat down, and another devotee from Hong Kong gave me a whole tray of Simply Wonderfuls, and he said, okay, go and serve them. Start by Srila Gurudev. So I go, I stop in front of Srila Gurudev's plates, and I look, and the plates were full already with prasadam. So I didn't know exactly what to do, but I knew I had to serve these Simply Wonderfuls. So I just picked up a Simply Wonderful and dropped it somewhere on the plate. So knowing Srila Gurudev, you can just imagine his reaction. He immediately he blasted me. He started saying, you don't know what you're doing. What are you doing here? Get out of here. He was very, very, very heavy with me. So I retracted, left the area, and I was actually very embarrassed by what I had done. And that day, later on, actually, that day I had a fever and I became sick. I don't know. I don't think it was because of Gurudev's chastisement. I had a flu coming up or something. And the next day, he called me into his room. I was supposed to talk with him and Giridhar Swami, and we were going to discuss my future services. So I go into the room. The first thing he says, he apologized for being so heavy with me. He said, I'm really sorry for being so strict with you yesterday, but you have to understand, I have to train my disciples and devotees. And then until this day, I don't know why, but I said to him, I said, no, don't worry, I need it. I say I don't know why until this day why I said this, because before being a devotee, being a Western youth, brought up in Western culture, we don't have much authority. We don't have much, respect for authority. It actually we're a bit insubmissive. But somehow or other, I said that to Srila Gurudev. Krishna inspired me to say that, and I think he was quite pleased with it. And the rest of the meeting was I was supposed to become Giridhar Swami's servant, assistant, and I was supposed to teach him Chinese also. And after that, he left Hong Kong, and he came back 2 months later, end of December, early January, and he called me again into his room, and he said, okay, I have a better idea. We're going to go to India. So he took me to India for 2 months. First, we went to Vrindavan. We attended the Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education, 1 month of seminars. And then after that, we went to Mumbai, Padayatra, then went to the Ratayatra near Ahmedabad, and ended up in in Mayapur for the festival, and he paid everything. I don't know who fronted the money, but he made all the arrangements for me to go to India with him. And the first 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks of being with him in India was very intense. As soon as I arrived in India, he was staying in his house in near the Parikram path. He was staying with Jayadvaita Swami. And he had a meeting with me and he said, okay, what are you going to do now that you're in Vrindavan? So then he started saying, okay, you attend the morning program from 4:13 and 4:15 in the morning. And then you're in charge of serving breakfast. And then you're in charge of the laundry. And then you're in charge of the cleaning of the house. And then after that, you will attend the VIH seminar classes. And he went on and on like that. And I was going to serve lunch, serve dinner. And he turned to Jayadvaita Swami and he said, so what do you think? Is this enough? And Jayadvaita Swami said, yes, it's fine, like that. And I ended up actually only sleeping 3-4 hours a day because I had so much service to do and so many classes to take. And as a new devotee, I was making so many mistakes as well. And he was almost constantly chastising me. He was actually quite heavy with me. And I was in Vrindavan and I was introduced to some of his god brothers who were staying there. Borijan Prabhu was there, Bibi Govinda Swami, Dunodar Maharaj. And then I would go to them and I would complain. I would say, what's happening? Why is he like this? Does he have an anger management problem? Does he have difficulties controlling himself? So you can just imagine these devotees, naturally, they would go and report to Srila Gurudev. And then he would just act as if he knew nothing. But they were preaching to me and trying to explain that I had to see things from a spiritual point of view, that he was training me and so on and so forth. And then one day, he just stopped. He said to me, anyway, your brain is too dull. There's not even any use in chastising you. And he stopped completely. And after that, in my experience of dealing with Srila Gurudev for so many years until he passed away, he only chastised me once, which was in mainland China. And I had omitted to make orders to get his Vyasa Puja book for the devotees in China. I was late in ordering the book. That was the only time he chastised me. Otherwise, he completely stopped. So then I understood actually he was fully in control. He was doing this to train me. So this is one thing about Srila Gurudev. One thing, he was actually, although he may have appeared to many devotees to be very strict and very stern, he was selectively like this. It's not that he was strict and heavy with everybody. And he was different also according to different contexts, different settings. In India, he was the ISKCON leader, senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, guru. In ISKCON around the world, he was also like that. But then in mainland China, for example, he was completely different. In mainland China, he was very easy, very approachable. He was easygoing. He was easily satisfied. If you wanted to please Srila Gurudev with prasadam, you had to be expert cook in your own cooking tradition. Let's say you're from India, you cook Indian, you have to be expert, or you're from Italy, you cook Italian. But in mainland China, you just had to cook simple Chinese food, and he was always pleased with the Chinese food. In mainland China, he acted more as a big brother or as an uncle, a fatherly figure. He was not interested in the ceremonial and the reverence and these things. And his main focus was how to implant Krishna consciousness in the heart of Chinese people. The way we started preaching in mainland China in a systematic and organized manner was actually not long after I joined. So I joined in '87 August. Then we went to India for the Mayapur festival, and at the end of the Mayapur festival, he asked me. He said, "So, what do you want to do? You want to stay in India? Do you want to go to France?" So I wasn't inclined in staying in India, although I like India. I wasn't interested in going back to France because at the time the French yatra was going through some difficulties. Bhagavan had just left and so on. So then I said to him, I said, actually, I want to go to China. In my mind, it's not that I had a burning desire to serve the mission and give Krishna consciousness to Chinese devotees in China. I was interested in the adventure of traveling through China and just do some tourism, actually. and another thing is, the only asset I had, or I thought I had at the time, was to speak some Mandarin. So then he looked at me and he said, "China, why do you want to go to China for? There's nothing there. There are no temples. There are no devotees. What do you want to do in China?" He said, "Why not Taiwan?" And I said to him, no, Taiwan is not good for me. Taiwan means I have to go and probably reconnect with some old associations, which is not going to be beneficial spiritually. And then he said, "What about Hong Kong?" I said, "Hong Kong is nice. The devotees are very nice, but I don't speak their language. They speak Cantonese. I speak Mandarin." So then he looked at me and he said, "Okay, give me a couple of days to think about it." And then a couple of days later, we had a meeting again, and Giridhar Swami was there also. And he said, "Okay, we're going to China. As soon as we go back to Hong Kong from this Mayapur festival, we organize to go into China." So we went 4 devotees. First, it was me and Devaprastha Prabhu, Devaprastha from Holland, who I assume is still in Dallas or somewhere in America. And he was a brahmachari at the time. And we decided to, Gurudev organized for us to fly into Shanghai from Hong Kong. And he told us, your mission is to observe all the immigration and custom procedures in Hong Kong to see whether or not they check their luggage very seriously or not. And then you're checking into a hotel, and then you dress up as in devotee attire, and then you just behave like tourist monks. You go around the city and you observe what happens, and then you report on the phone. So we did that, and then we flew into Shanghai, and I had a very romantic idea of what China was at the time. I thought China was just coming out of several decades of communist regime, and materially speaking, the society was not very developed, but it was, in my mind, it was a plus spiritually. I was thinking, oh, I'm going into a country where it's going to be easy to control the senses and like that. And also I was thinking the infrastructure was not going to be so developed, but it would be an interesting experience. But as we landed in Shanghai and walked through the airport, it was a very strange feeling, because all the infrastructure and the people were dressed as what we expect for mainland China in those days, but then the music blasting in the airport was Madonna singing "I Am a Material Girl." So I thought this was China at the time. They were opening up to the West and starting absorbing materialistic culture like anything. So we reported to Gurudev, And he came in with Gaurava Swami several days later with half of his suitcase, half of his luggage was full of books. We had small pamphlets that we were planning to distribute during our preaching efforts there. And in those days, staying in China meant we rent some small hotel rooms, and then everything happens in the hotel room. We would cook. Of course, it was not authorized. It was not allowed by the government. We would cook with electric plates, and we would wash the vegetables and the pots in the bathroom, in the bathtub, and it was quite interesting actually. And then Gurudev asked me, okay, what can we do to start this preaching? My experience of Chinese culture, having stayed in Taiwan 1 year before joining ISKCON, I knew that there were many people would go to the parks every day. So I said, maybe we can go to a park, and there will always be some people there, any time of the day. Of course, in the morning, many people go for exercise, for dancing, for all kinds of physical activities, but even during the day, there are many people going. So we decided to go to a park. We walked from the hotel to a nearby park, and I was carrying a Balaram Mridanga, and we had a bag with some books, and we had a large plastic sheet that we were planning to put on the ground to sit on. And then we go to the park, and we choose a spot, we sit down, and we start the kirtan. So very quickly, I noticed that many people were gathering around us. And I was on one hand, I was very excited by the experience, and also a little bit scared. I was wondering what is going to happen. But then I thought this was reminiscent to Srila Prabhupada holding first kirtans in Tompkins Square Park in New York. I was thinking this is a bit similar. Of course, we were not the first ones to have kirtan in China. A devotee from Hong Kong, a Canadian devotee, Rati Prabhu, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he had been in China before, and he had done kirtan on his own in Guangzhou. So you can just imagine a Westerner doing kirtan on his own in China in those days. So anyway, we did this kirtan, and then after a few minutes, we were surrounded by at least 50, 60 people. And then Gurudev suddenly stopped the kirtan, and he said to me, he said, all right, Bhakti Eric, speak to them, say something. So I was not feeling very confident. First of all, after being a devotee for only 7-8 months, I didn't fully grasp all the concept of the philosophy, or even if I understood them, I wasn't very experienced as explaining them to others. And on top of that, my Chinese level was not very high. So I said to Gurudev, I said, it's going to be a bit difficult. Maybe you speak and then I translate. And then after a couple of minutes, I realized that most of the philosophical terms of Krishna consciousness, I couldn't speak them in Chinese. So we decided to change the strategy. We decided to encourage the crowd to join in singing with us. And then we separated the crowd into two parts. The ladies would sing, and then the men would sing, and they would compete who would sing better. And then we would, at the end of the kirtan, we would pull out the small pamphlet and distribute them to everyone. One day, in these first few days of preaching in Shanghai, a teacher came with some children to the park, and they took part in our kirtan, very, very lively kirtan. There's about 30, 40 kids around us. And at the end of the kirtan, Gurudev turned to me and he said, this kirtan was heard in Vaikuntha. He had this comment about the kirtan. Later on, not long after that, we realized that Chinese people were very eager to learn English, especially the educated Chinese people. So what they would do is they would organize English corners, which was gatherings in various venues like park or university campus at a specific timing in the week. And they would all get together and speak English to each other. And most of the time, it was only Chinese people. There was no foreigners. So they would practice English by talking to each other in English. It's a quite interesting concept. You could see the eagerness of these people to learn English. So when Gurudev found out about these English corners, he said, okay, we go to these English corners. We went, and in these English corners, I witnessed Srila Gurudev doing what he liked the best. What he liked the best was introducing Krishna consciousness to completely new people. One time I saw him within 45 minutes talking to a small group of people. It was about 6-7 people. And naturally, the first thing was, oh, how are you? Where are you from? What do you do? So immediately we would introduce ourselves as yoga teachers and then start presenting some concept of Krishna consciousness. And within 45 minutes, he basically summarized the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And I saw in his eyes, he was beaming with eagerness to give them Krishna. And on their side, at the end of the discussion, I could see that they were basically surrendering on the spot. And then one of them said, okay, fine. So what's next? What do we do now? So Gurudev organized our preaching activities that we would go to the English corner, we would speak to some people, and then after that, bring them to our hotel rooms for prasadam. And in those days, he used to request people that he had met the very same morning in an English corner. He used to request them in the afternoon after prasadam to start chanting Hare Krishna on beads. He would give the beads to them, ask them to chant 16 rounds and follow 4 regulative principles the same day. And I still remember now one of the first person who did this in China. It was in Beijing. It was a young university student. He kept it up for some time. Later on, he emigrated to America. We lost track of him. But his name was Yo Chanting. So in Chinese, it doesn't mean you chanting, but it was kind of interesting that the first Chinese person that picked up the instructions and started chanting 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles, his name was Yo Chanting. So this is one thing that I witnessed. The Srila Gurudev preaching power was actually very amazing. And after this experience in the park, I told him, I said, it's amazing. How do you convince people so easily like this? And then he said to me, he said, actually, I have this ability. When I joined ISKCON the first year, I made 50 bhaktas. Even as a new bhakta himself, when he joined in America, the first year he was a devotee, he made 50 devotees. So from this, my personal conclusion is that he actually was not just an ordinary conditioned soul coming into contact with Vaishnavism, with Srila Prabhupada. I think it was definitely one of those rare souls that Srila Prabhupada himself says, my Guru Maharaj sent you to me to assist me. He was one of them. He was one of those rare souls who was there specifically sent to assist Srila Prabhupada in his endeavors in preaching Krishna consciousness. And during the early days of preaching in China, I remember one day we met some young people in a park, and then he told me, okay, you preach to them in Chinese. And then in the course of speaking to them, I mentioned the name Gurudev. I was actually introducing them to Gurudev and him to them. And then after the encounter, as we walked back to the hotel, he said to me, "Don't introduce me as Gurudev. Gurudev is only for my disciples. When you introduce me to people, you introduce me as Goswami Maharaj or Tamal Krishna Maharaj. In the future, I want many initiating spiritual masters to come to China and accept disciples. So don't introduce me as Gurudev." So from the early days, he was contemplating ISKCON in China with multi gurus. He was not in this mood of I am going to China. I'm the first. Therefore, all the disciples should be my disciples. He didn't think like that. He wanted to make it the broadest possible, give the broadest association possible to the people in China. And initially, our preaching was actually very simple. We would go into a city on the Sunday. He set down the whole strategy. We identify where the English corners were on the Sunday morning and afternoon. We go to some English corners, and then while meeting people, we set up meetings for the week. We tell the people that if they're interested to know more, we can visit them in their university or their working units, and then we can have a little discussion there, a little gathering with them. So in one day of English Corner association on Sunday, we would set up meeting for the whole week. And sometimes we had 2 meetings a day or 3 meetings a day, and then we would go, and it became a whole strategy. We would introduce ourselves as yoga teachers. Initially, it was Gurudev who would make the little philosophical presentation. We would teach people to chant Hare Krishna. We would get them to chant Hare Krishna with us. And then later on, he actually even added one element to the preaching. Since we were presenting ourselves as yoga teachers and Hatha Yoga was becoming popular in China, he asked us to include Hatha Yoga in our sadhana every day. He wanted us to do some 40 minutes of Hatha Yoga in the morning, so that when we go in and meet people and introduce ourselves as yoga teachers, later on we can organize meetings where we demonstrate some asanas, speak a little philosophy, do some kirtan, and tell people, oh, if you like it, actually, we're going to be here for a month, or we're going to be here for 2 months. If you want, we can have a regular weekly gathering. And this is how we started systematized and organized preaching in the early days. So using Hatha Yoga was a strategy which he already had used in Hong Kong, actually. When Srila Prabhupada came first, when Srila Gurudev came first to Hong Kong, I think it was in the early 80s, I don't exactly know the year, maybe 1980, 1981. He came to Hong Kong, and the first thing he did was put on a 3-piece suit and then go to the government offices in Hong Kong and register ISKCON, Bhaktivedanta Books Limited, and the first ever Hatha Yoga Institute registered in Hong Kong. It was called the International Yoga Institute. And he brought in one of his American disciples who was a very expert Ashtanga yoga teacher. And then he started organizing yoga classes in Hong Kong. By organizing yoga classes, he attracted some young people who became devotees. A couple of them got trained up into doing the yoga. And then that American devotee went back to America, and the local devotees kept teaching yoga. So when I joined Hong Kong, the Hong Kong ashram, the main preaching activity had been for many years yoga classes, which is something that was picked up later in the years 2000 by many ISKCON devotees around the world, in Los Angeles, in New York, in Sydney. They started using Hatha Yoga as a way to attract new people, introduce kirtan, prasadam, philosophy, and so on. So Srila Gurudev did this actually right from the early 80s. He used this preaching strategy. Of course, as soon as people became devotees, they got trained up into sadhana, bhakti, and book distribution. In Hong Kong, there was a lot of book distribution going on when I joined. But in China, it was very difficult to do book distribution. We had a hard time bringing books in. We had to put the books in our luggage and then carry it across the border, smuggle the books across the border, and we would only carry as much as we could distribute during our preaching tour. And in the early days, we would choose to go no more than a month. We would leave from Hong Kong and select 2, 3, 4 cities, 3, 4 weeks, and then came back to Hong Kong. And it was considered to be very austere to go to China. Austere because there was no deities, there was no temple, there was no devotee association. So we would go into China and then after a month come out. And then when Gurudev would come to visit us, the first year and a half, he actually convinced about a dozen Western devotees to come and preach in China. What I was describing, these English corner programs and then preaching in university classes or things like that, we took pictures of all this. And as soon as Gurudev came out of China, he visited anywhere he went, he would have slideshows and he would talk about his preaching in China. And one goal to do this, one purpose was to inspire people, but also to identify potential candidates for coming to preach in China. And in the first year, 18 months, he paid for everything, for everybody. There were 12, 14 Western preachers in China who were staying there all the time practically, and he was paying for everything. The only thing they had to cover was their flight to Hong Kong. After that, he would cover everything. So this is how organized and dedicated Srila Gurudev was. And of course, after a year and a half, the expenses were quite high. So at that time, he gathered everyone and he said, now, if you want to keep preaching in China, then you have to collect your own funds. So then we started coming to, initially it was coming to Taiwan and sell paintings. And after doing paintings for 6 months to a year, which was not very enjoyable activity, we started doing book distribution in Taiwan. So we would distribute books in the streets, door to door in Taiwan for maybe 1 month, 1.5 months a year. We would come twice a year. And then the rest of the time we would be in China doing our preaching activities.
Ekachakra, Prabhu, it is a
Yeah.
wonderful unfolding. I think everyone here is able to visualize to some extent on these amazing beginnings, apparent beginnings. And now there's such a massive devotee force in China. We can see them coming in buses to Mayapur and Vrindavan. It's just amazing. So I just, with the time, I really would love to hear a little bit. Jahnava, please say something, because you are an important bridge. You have done so much for the spreading of Krishna consciousness. So whatever you'd like to share, it can be completely different from what he shared. Like what happened to you? Why did you surrender to this life? Why Gurudev? Can you share a little bit? What do you like to say?
Okay. My English listening, I think it's good, but speaking very poor.
You keep it simple. It's okay. It's all right. You just do your own level, but please speak something personally. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. You ask me why I choose this path. I think because from childhood, I already started to seeking, what is the meaning of life. That's also kind of a story, but to make it short, before I joined the ISKCON, already read, the Bible and Western philosophy and Taoism, Buddhism,
Mhm.
because I want to find the meaning of life. I don't want to live like, the people around me. I find them, all suffer like anything. So then, because of Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, Gurudev, and Ekachakra and other senior devotees' endeavor, so we Chinese people started get some books. So one day, I just received Bible. After 1 month, I received the Bible. And after read the Bible, I really started to believe there is a God and there's a heaven. And but when I got the Bible and flew back to Beijing because I went to other city to have some job, I look out through the window and see the sky. There
From the airplane.
From the airplane, I'm thinking, oh, there is a heaven. I really like to go, but. After 1 or 2 hours, I feel boring. I said, if the heaven like this, I'd rather not go there. But anyway, I already started seeking. And so after one month, and I got the Bible, one day when I walked in office, there's Ekachakra and another Chinese students come to my office, started to preach to me, introduce several small books to me. And that books, the quality is so bad and full of, wrong characters, but still, one sentence really attracted my attention. That book is coming back, and behind, they write why some people, they're very nice, but you see their life suffer like anything. And some people, you see they're doing a lot of bad things, but it seems like they are rich and, have a power. So what is behind this? So I started to interest in, all these books. I brought all these books, and then gradually. Anyway, that's a long story, but I don't think.
Would you like to say something like, how did you choose for Srila Tamal Krishna Maharaj as your guru? How did that happen?
So
he chose her.
Yeah, actually, he chose me. Because after reading those books, very soon I started already, started do some service and also distribute book. So one day after, I think maybe six months or something like that, said some devotee told me that our Gurudev will come, our teacher, now in Beijing, do you want to meet him? So I went there, one gathering, and I kind of late a little bit. As soon as I went into that room. Gurudev at that time, he was speaking to other people, and immediately he looked at me and said, "You're my disciple." I just feel, what? I'm used, you know. Anyway, so I sat down and he said, I hope one of my disciples, one day can distribute hundreds books a day.
You have to say, I was doing the distribution at the time.
At that time, I already starting to distribute books.
Mm-hmm.
And for a whole day, work on street. I maybe sometimes even 9 hours. I only can distribute 40 books. So he said, I hope one of my disciples distribute 100 a day. I just, in my mind, I think it's impossible. But after, anyway, after he's speaking, we started to have a prasadam, and one devotee, I think you also know,
Dayani Prabhu.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he sat down beside me and started to talk to me, and he asked me, what do you think about this? I said, it's impossible. This kind of, first of all, I don't know him. And he said, I'm his disciple. And the second, he just immediately said, I hope, one of my disciples can distribute 100 books a day. Now I already spent 9 hours, only 40. I calculate materially, so I think it's impossible. But Dhamita told me that, our philosophy is that if you listen to your guru's instruction, then Krishna will, through him, give you power.
And he did. He surely did. I want to listen more, but I look at the time. Isn't it true, Dhruva Prabhu? Where are we? Are you there?
Yeah.
It's 12 o'clock in Holland, so it's 11 o'clock in England, right?
Maharaj is with us at the moment. Maybe a few minutes, 2 minutes, Jahnava Mataji can finish off.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Yes. So better.
We should have more of these weekends. That's sure. I mean, we're just barely opening, the person's heart, and there's so much more to share. So I'm just saying we can have more of these weekends. Don't you think so? I mean, isn't there more? There's not enough time. But so please forgive me for rudely interrupting. Could you round up your story of what you were saying?
Actually, I would like to say something about, my perception of Gurudev. I feel he's very thoughtful. And whenever, he wants to do something, he's not just, rush like anything. He will study it very carefully. Like how to preach in the Kasha days. Later I find out that after Prabhupada gave him instruction, he really studied how to do it in this area. Later on, after he passed away, I find out a box of his library, and inside there are several Chinese books, of course written in English, but it's Taoism, Lao Tzu, Confucianism. Yeah, he really studied their
way of
culture and how these people thinking, So, and he also sometimes discuss with us. I really missed off those moments. We have a meeting and he asked our opinion. how do you think how we should do in that area, how we can benefit to that area, you know.
Yeah.
He's very, and he's a very true, very real person, you know. He, as a spiritual master, I think he teach by his own example, and he will not pretend something he's so high. He also tell us what kind of a mistake he made, and what kind of things he learned from those mistakes, and what is his realization. So all these things really deeply, you know, influence us. Anyway, the time is too short. Maybe we should finish now.
Wonderful.
So,
very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you for opening up like that in just a few minutes. That's very endearing. And yeah, as they say, what is that? Valena Parichayate, I always forget. But we judge by the result. So obviously by the service that you have rendered with in his physical presence, but also after and to this very day is a proof of how deeply he has touched both of your lives. And it's very glorious. It's humbling, it's inspiring. And yes, I wish that you would continue as long as you can, and with all the devotees that are coming and learning from you. I think this world is being influenced by Krishna consciousness. Also the Chinese part, no matter what the politicians may say or whatever cameras they put, this current is going on and it's not to be stopped ever. So thank you so much. Jai, China Mission ki jai, China Mission devotees ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so very much. Lovely to see you. I'm so proud of you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Wow. Okay, let's have a little water here. So, isn't this an amazing weekend? It's like not even a weekend. It's a transcendental place where the sages are gathering and sharing the realizations. It's really, really special. So we're going to move on now to another illustrious preacher who has been inspired by His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami. I also had the pleasure of briefly meeting you, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. So I received a biography, which is also very long. I'm going to read some of it. Please don't mind, Maharaj, because it's like your accomplishments are very large. This I would like to ask everyone's attention for His Holiness Bhakti Gaurava Narayana Swami. He was born near Jagannath Puri Dham in the state of Odisha, probably.
Odisha.
Yes, in the year of 1953, he graduated from SCS College in Puri with honors and post-graduated from Vishva Bharati University in Shantiniketan in West Bengal with a gold medal, yay, in the year 1978. He then joined as a lecturer in SCS College Puri in 1980. Desiring to lead a spiritual life, His Holiness resigned from government service, joined ISKCON Vrindavan as a full-time renounced devotee towards the end of 1981, and later on he became a disciple of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami. Then he started traveling and preaching in UP, in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, 3 years till the mid-80s. Then he became a life patron member enroller, and he lectured. He was transferred to Calcutta, and he was there the life membership director until the end of the 80s. Then he also started a student preaching program. And there's lots of professional degree students that practice Krishna consciousness under his guidance. Yeah, it's just one long list of preaching. Maharaj is completely into the fire, let's see, of preaching. I want to read it all. I don't want to minimize your accomplishments, but I so very much want to hear from you. So what I'm going to pick out is that he was actually, and that I know about, he was assigned a great service to develop ISKCON Govardhan project, the Bhaktivedanta ashram there, as the manager in 1994. And for 5 years, then he did that. Then he was a president of ISKCON Govardhan for another 5 years. Then he, in 2003, became a sannyasi and initiating spiritual master in 2007. And now Maharaj is in the service of Krishna as a zonal secretary for Odisha. And they also edited Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in Hindi, Jai. And he's living in Vrindavan since 2010. He has all these degrees of Bhakti Shastri. Let's see, now I think he's done it all pretty much. So he has a lot to share. He's also directing a temple project in the Angul. Where is this? Well, he's just blossoming, a blossoming flower on the Bhakti path. So please, would you share with us, Maharaj, your memories, your fond memories and your realizations about His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
So I would also like to thank the Dhruva Maharaj, Prabhu, and all other organizers of this program. And I am also grateful to Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu to give me this opportunity to glorify Srila Gurudev in the association of my God brothers and God sisters and so many other followers. So it is my great pleasure to speak about Srila Gurudev. And I met Srila Gurudev in Vrindavan in 1982. Because initially I was as a new bhakta serving in Prabhupada's house, cleaning Prabhupada's house and maintaining Prabhupada's library there. And I was taking books from there to read. And I was also hearing Srila Prabhupada's lectures while doing my service. And at the same time, I saw a video of Srila Gurudev in Prabhupada's house. That was God's demigods and incarnations. That was made in Fiji. And I was very much impressed with that video. And I became very attracted to Srila Gurudev just by seeing that video and hearing his lectures. And then in 82, after Mayapur Gaur Punya festival, then there was Vrindavan Gaur Punya festival. And at that time, all the 11 gurus, they were coming to Vrindavan. Every day, one of the gurus was giving lecture, Bhagavatam lecture. And I also heard from Srila Gurudev. And then my conviction became strengthened by hearing Srila Gurudev's lecture. And I thought that he is my guru, because I was looking for a spiritual master. So when I decided that, then I approached Srila Gurudev in Prabhupada's house. Then Srila Gurudev asked me what service I was doing, and then I expressed my desire. But you know, at that time, this zonal acharya system was there, and I was not aware of that. So then, of course, Gurudev did not tell me about those things. But then he said that, oh, I am preaching outside of India, and you will not get my association here so much. So then he directed me to the local zonal acharya that time. So anyway, under his guidance, though I was reluctant, but still I have to follow and take initiation, and then later on we know after the fall down of the acharyas, so many devotees suffered. So after that, again, when I was in Calcutta, then Gurudeva was visiting Calcutta. So I again went to Srila Gurudev. And I again asked him, what should I do now? Because he had only instructed me to take initiation from zonal acharya at that time. But then when he fell down from his position, then I asked Gurudev again, what should I do now? Then Gurudev said, okay, now GBC is going to decide something. So you just depend on Srila Prabhupada. So I depended on Srila Prabhupada under Gurudev's instruction. And when GBC decided that the disciples of the fallen gurus can take initiation from the guru of their choice, because that time the GBC rule also changed. So I again approached Gurudev. And Gurudev had forgotten about this incident, and I reminded him that I had met him in Vrindavan in 82, and what he had told me. So when Gurudev heard those things, he felt responsible for me. And then he said, okay, this time I will do initiative. So Gurudev gave me initiation, both Harinam and Brahmin together in Mayapur at Gaur Purnima. So after that, then Gurudev asked me to come to Vrindavan and attend BAHE course. And in course of attending BAHE, then some problem happened to Sachidulal Prabhu, who was serving Gurudev at that time. And then Gurudev asked me to serve him. So during service of Sri Gurudev, then naturally, like Ekachakra Prabhu was telling, that we were not so much trained of how to serve prasadam and how to serve the spiritual master. So in due course of service, specifically while serving prasadam, Gurudev was so particular about serving prasadam. And many devotees would be afraid to serve prasadam to Srila Gurudev. And Srila Gurudev would always take prasadam with his god brothers. He would never take prasadam alone. And when we would make any mistake while serving, then he would chastise in front of everyone very heavily. So that also happened to me. So one time, some mistake was done and Gurudev chastised me. And then Gurudev went back to his room. And generally after Gurudev takes prasadam, then we the servants usually take prasadam. So that day I did not take prasadam. And Gurudev, after chastising me, then he went to his room and then he called one of the devotees and asked him that did Gaur Narayana take prasadam? Then he said no. Then Gurudev immediately called me. Then he asked me, why did you not take prasadam today? Because he was thinking maybe he chastised me, and that's why I did not take prasadam. So then I explained to Sri Gurudev that I had some stomach problem, and because of that I did not take prasadam. So then he was satisfied. I said, okay then. So then I understood that when Sri Gurudev is chastising us, that means he is trying to train us up so we can serve in a perfect way. But at this, after chastising, he is also thinking about the devotees, about his reaction to his chastisement. And Guru was very thoughtful. So that's why he called me and asked me, why did I not take prasad? So that means Gurudev is always thinking how to train up his disciples in a perfect way. And I understood that Gurudev's heart is so soft, though he has to do this service of chastisement to the disciples, which is very difficult actually for a guru to do. And now I am in that position also realizing that it's so difficult to chastise disciples and find their faults and correct them. So another time I was, same time, same year, Gurudev was supposed to go to Mayapur after Vrindavan. And I was supposed to go to Mayapur before him to prepare his room there. So then I went to Sri Gurudev and paid my obeisances and told him that Sri Gurudev, in due course of my service to you, I have committed so many offenses. So please forgive me. So when Gurudev heard that, then he said that by chastising you, first thing he said that you cannot make any offenses. By chastising you, if I have committed any offense, please forgive me. So when Gurudev said that, tears rolled down from my eyes, seeing the heart of Sri Gurudev, how humble he was. Though he was in the position of a spiritual master, and a spiritual master does not have to beg forgiveness from a disciple. But Sri Gurudev was so humble, he was asking forgiveness. That's why tears rolled down from my eyes, seeing the heart of Sri Gurudev. And then he explained to me. He said, you know, why do I chastise you? I want to sharpen your intelligence, by which you can serve Radha and Krishna perfectly. So this is the mood of the spiritual masters. The spiritual master's duty is to train his disciples to serve Radha and Krishna in a perfect way. That's why the spiritual master gives so much trouble, takes so much trouble to chastise the disciples and correct them and train them up. So it is not a very good thing to chastise others, but the spiritual master has to do this. And Sri Gurudev was doing this as a matter of duty. I have never seen, while chastising the disciples, and while chastising me also, I have never seen in Gurudev's face any kind of anger. Generally, when someone becomes angry, then his eyes becomes red, his so many symptoms of anger manifest within the body. But I have never seen in Gurudev's when he's angry or he's not angry. He was just chastising, and that was only coming from his throat, not from his heart. So there was no symptom of anger. He was above that anger. And he was doing actually thankless task to train up the disciples and taking that trouble. So then another time, same in Vrindavan, that time Gurudev was taking milk and some puppies at night. So that time I was not serving him, Satyavala Prabhu was serving him. But I had gone in the evening to see Srila Gurudev, and I was discussing with him some few matters. So then at the end of the discussion, Gurudev asked me to bring his prasadam. So then I went and asked Satyavala Prabhu that Gurudev asked for prasadam, please give me so I can serve Srila Gurudev. So then he handed over me for some milk and some puppies. So then I brought and put in front of Gurudev. So then immediately Gurudev asked me that, is it offered? Generally he doesn't ask this thing. But Gurudev knows the heart of the disciples. So immediately that day he asked, is it offered? So then I said, Gurudev, I don't know, because I have not made the offering. So I brought from Satyavala Prabhu. Then he said, go and ask him whether he has offered it or not. So when I asked Satyavala Prabhu, then he said, I have offered to Srila Prabhupada. Then I came back and told Srila Gurudev that Satyavala Prabhu is telling that he has offered to Srila Prabhupada. Then Gurudev told me, call him now. So I called Satyavala Prabhu. Then immediately he asked that what is this offering to Srila Prabhupada? Because generally we see devotees, they want to eat something. And if that foodstuff cannot be offered to Krishna, then they make the offering to Prabhupada and eat it. So Gurudev immediately said, what is this offering to Srila Prabhupada? In the scripture, it has been stated that everything should be offered to Krishna. And Krishna Prasad should be offered to Guru. So where it is written that you offer to Guru instead of Krishna. So in that way, Gurudev actually was teaching us that if anything cannot be offered to Krishna, then we are not supposed to take that. So only after offering to Krishna, we can give it to our Guru Maharaj, and then we ourselves can take. That is the process he was teaching us. And then after I went to Mayapur to serve Gurudev, and Gurudev later on went there. So I was preparing his bed at night. Then that time, Mayapur festival time, it was a little cold at night, but hot in the daytime. So I asked Gurudev that should I keep the window open? Then Gurudev said, I don't know. So then I understood that Gurudev is trying to examine my intelligence. that whether I'm keeping the window open or closing it. He wants to test my intelligence. So then what I did, I just closed the window and left it open very little, so some air can come. But Gurudeva will not feel cold at night, but it will not be stuffy, so he can get some air. But I was anxious that next day what Gurudeva would tell me. So then when I went next day, then Gurudeva did not tell me anything. Then I thought, oh, I did the right thing then. So that was there. Another day, same thing, I was preparing the bed. Then Gurudev said, now you go out. I want to take a rest. Then I told Gurudev that, Gurudev, I have not put the mosquito net for you. Then Gurudev said, I can put my mosquito net. I don't have to depend on you. So then I left his room. Then I thought over it, that sometimes when the disciples serve Srila Gurudev, then disciples, they start thinking that Gurudev is dependent on me, on my service to him. And Gurudev was trying to teach that thing, that he is not dependent on anyone's service. Actually, he is giving us the opportunity to serve him, to train us up, to serve Sri Radha Krishna perfectly. That is his mercy. So in that way, he was actually teaching us every time. And another time, in the morning also, he was taking some puppies and some fruits. And I had asked one Bengali devotee to make puppies for Srila Gurudev. So he was every day making puppies for Srila Gurudev. And I was serving him. Then one day, when I went to bring puppies from him, then that day he had not made the puppies, but he had made some chiuda, flat rice. So he gave that flat rice, fried flat rice to me. Then I asked him that, where is the puppies? Then he said, no, you can take this. Tamal Krishna Maharaj likes this flat rice. I said, no, Guru Maharaj wants these puppies and you are supposed to give me their puppies. But why did you make this flat rice? And he will be angry on this. Then he said, no, you can give. Maharaj will be very happy. So in that way, he consoled me and I brought the flat rice. And then when I offered to Srila Gurudev, Gurudev was so angry on me. Then why did you bring this flat rice? I want puppies. And he started chastising me, and I was thinking the earth is moving from my feet. So heavy chastisement. So I understood that what Srila Gurudeva wants, we are supposed to give him something, not that we speculate something and give him something else. And that he was teaching us also. So another time, that was in Bombay. So Srila Gurudeva had come there, and Gurudeva was going to the airport. So suddenly after leaving Juhu temple, there was a traffic jam in a traffic post. And you know, Bombay traffic posts. Traffic jam is very heavy. So in the car, I was in the front, Giriraj Maharaj and Gurudeva were sitting in the back. And when Gurudeva saw the traffic jam, so he immediately told me that Governor, go and stop the traffic. because Gurudev was in a hurry to go to the airport to catch the flight. And I was new to Bombay. And I was thinking, how am I going to stop the traffic in Bombay? And there is no traffic police there. So this was an impossible job for me to do. But anyway, I surrendered to Guru Maharaj's order. And I just went out of the car. And I was thinking how to stop the traffic so Guru Maharaj's car could pass. And we know that when Guru gives the order to someone to do something, with that order, he also gives empowerment. And though it was an impossible job for me to stop Bombay traffic, so I thought, okay, now that was a one-side traffic, the other side was open, and there was a long line of cars. And I was telling the drivers to stop, and no one was stopping. And that was moving, the car was moving a little bit ahead, then another car will go. In this way, it was moving. So, and I was telling all the drivers, no one was stopping. So then I thought they will never stop and they will never listen to me. And there was no traffic police. So Krishna gave me the intelligence. So once one car moved a little ahead, I just behind the car, I just stood in front of the other car. So I would not let the other car to move. So in that way, the other cars moved, and this line where I was standing on the road, the cars could not move. So there was a gap, and Gurudev's car could pass. Then I came back to the car, and then we came to the airport. So after that incident, then Gurudev told me that, Governor, now you should take sannyas.
Really?
So in that, so
Amazing.
that was the time that Gurudev asked me to take sannyas, though I had not thought of taking sannyas. So anyway, there are so many nice things about Gurudev to speak, but now the time is up.
I know. So, it's such a pity, Maharaj. You have so much. Maybe you can write a book. You've done so much, but maybe you can also write a book about your, times with Tamal Krishna Maharaj and whatever else you'd like to include. But I'm sure you have a lot more to share, and we would all benefit from it. Anyway, it's just something that came in.
By your blessings, it will be possible one day.
Everyday's blessings. I'm sure he wants more and more because he sees all your talents. So it would please him. So I want to share one announcement that I saw with regards to the service of Maharaj. There's an announcement of Prem Kishore Das, who is a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Gaurava Narayana Maharaj. And he says that Maharaj is constructing a wonderful Radhashyam Sundar temple in ISKCON Angul in Odisha, India. And he also has a plan for a Pushpa Samadhi of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami in ISKCON Angul. So all the devotees are heartily welcome to ISKCON Angul. And there's more details. For more details, there's a phone number in the chat, which you can phone. Thank you, Prem Kishore. Very nice. Yes, wow, Pushpa Samadhi in Angul. Why not? Wonderful. Great idea. So we'd like to thank you, Maharaj, very much for your blessed input and your preaching and everything you're doing to assist Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thank you so much. And may we see you soon again. And please stay, but please come again. Thank you. Jai. All right. So, and actually on your timelines, you will see that His Holiness Keshav Bharati Das Goswami is scheduled to speak now. And he lets all of you know that he would have loved to do that, because he's very dear also. Tamal Krishna Maharaj is very dear to him. And but yeah, Maharaj, as Dhruva Prabhu said in the beginning, he had a hip operation a few weeks ago, and he's not able, unfortunately, for us to share his memories this time. If you're looking, Guru Maharaj, maybe next time, hopefully. So, and he candidly asked me to stand in for him. I don't know exactly what that means. I have considered that maybe I should tell stories about them, but then I thought, no, let me rather not do that, because I only know the from the outside. So we would love to invite Maharaj for another session in the future. And for now, I had a lot of association with Srila Gurudev, more than I can understand why, but I had a lot. And so it's only proper for me to try and share a little bit with you all, my dear God family, and everyone else who likes to hear. So where to start? My goodness. By the way, for the timeline, this should not go longer than half an hour. So if I do, please stop me. Because once the TKG chamber opens, there is so much there, which I think everybody who has spent time with Maharaj and received his guidance can attest to. So I'm going to shift now from my kind of role as a speaker or a host to just little me. So it'll be more authentic and hopefully more interesting for you. All right, so the first time I saw His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami live was in 1986 in Mayapur Dham, where I was visiting for the 500th anniversary of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. And it was an amazing festival. I think 1 million people visited in the course of a few days. I was a fairly young devotee. I was initiated at the time by Bhagavan Das, which was also called Srila Gurudev. He was my guru and he meant so much to me, and I was there, he was also there. And one of the things which I saw, which really amazed me, because if you haven't guessed by now, I have an artistic background. I am kind of a artist. I like to sing, and I did acting in my younger days. And here we were in the Samadhi of Srila Prabhupada, which was kind of almost finished, I think. And there was a public performance of a theater. They called the drama of Jagannath Priyanatakam. And the one who was introducing this drama was His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, because he actually apparently had written this play. And he made it a point to talk to us to one of the things I remember, which stuck with me, even though he was like, for me, was a sannyasi of ISKCON, didn't have a personal relationship or anything. But he said that drama, this kind of drama, is not Maya. It is written according to the rules of the dramas that Srila Rupa Goswami wrote. And so it's bona fide. And that it made me so excited that sannyasi would actually be so creative to write a whole drama about Lord Jagannath. And then we went on to see a wonderful play. If you think, oh, I wish I would have seen that. There's one sweet comfort that, of course, the book is there. And there is also an audio recording of the voices, very nicely done. Which is on the TKGTM website. So you can, if you like, you can listen to it. It was mesmerizing. And so I really enjoyed that drama, and I remembered him. And when I came home to Holland, where I live, Amsterdam, I then soon after that, like the trouble started, as we have heard earlier before today, Bhagavan Das fell down, others also fell down, really big leaders. I was a young girl, I was 22 or something. And my life was smashed. I mean, the only thing that kind of kept me going was the structure of the temple. I was living in a temple and I was distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. And that also, Bhagavan, when his farewell letter, he told us, please take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, please continue your service. And my service was book distribution. So I was doing that as good as I could with my broken heart. And I found this book called Servant of the Servant. A small book, was not like the big version. I think it was just a small first part or something. And I started reading that, which was of course written by Srila Gurudev, about his pastimes with Srila Prabhupada in the early days since he joined. And this book was very fascinating. It had a kind of a power to immediately, like, I felt strengthened in my resolve to preach. And I was actually quite fascinated and attracted to His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami. But as we heard in snippets from the other devotees, Narayana Das at the time, he was saying, or he wasn't even called that, I think, but anyway, he was saying that also he lost his first guru, if I understood correctly, and he wanted to be initiated by Tamal Krishna Maharaj, even before. Anyhow, the zonal acharya system had its, its holes, and sorry, if I start to ramble, I need water, excuse me. So we also, our whole yatra was really, in distress, and in the distress of losing our leader and manager, the things that were built by him and his people, so it started to crumble, and there sprung up this whole swamp of Ritvik philosophy, which was seriously preached. Like, I mean to say, every lunch, every milk and cookies, there was somebody talking about how we should only accept Prabhupada and all the others are like, it was so, just like, breathing glass. It was really horrible. And so I was really struggling. And this book gave me solace, Servant of the Servant. And then I started, dreaming, hoping how I could be in contact with this Tamal Krishna Goswami. But it was really like he was in the other side of the world, and just a little desire. Then I became engaged. I got married with His Grace at the time, Vatsalya Das. And we wanted to go to India to be inspired by the Dham. So we went to Mayapur in I tried to remember yesterday, I think it's 88 or 89. I'm not sure, for the Mayapur festival. And there we had the opportunity to meet a lot of sannyasis and hear from them. But I remember, I will fast forward this too much, I was feeling so down one particular day. I'm not proud to say it, but just to give you an idea of my state of spiritual despair. I was so down that one day I couldn't place any faith anymore in all these sannyasis with their dandas walking around. And there was one day, at least, maybe two, that I just passed them and I didn't even bow down to them anymore. Yeah. So that's in the Dham, it was intense. I felt really bad. And then one of my Sankirtan friends, she said, are you coming to a Nectar of Instruction by Tamal Krishna Maharaj? I said, oh, no, thank you. I was in this mood, right? Sounds just like Bhagavan. I can't handle it. And she said, oh, but I like it. He's very inspiring. He's inspiring me to chant my rounds. Then I thought, that's interesting. Because I also made this vow, I have to chant my 16 rounds. Why don't I try one time? I can still remember going up to I think it's the room of Gurudev. We just followed the devotees and we're sitting there. And as I was coming in, this atmosphere came over me that there was Tulasi Devi. There was a disciple probably fanning, Srila Gurudev. All the devotees were there peacefully seating, doing some kirtan, ready to hear from him. It was like, old-fashioned spiritual life, the way I kind of joined, where I thought, this is it. Here I'm going to, get love of God. And then all this crashed. And then I came in this rarefied atmosphere, and Gurudev was sitting there completely doing his duty, and excited to preach. And so he gave his lecture on nectar of instruction. And afterwards, he was asked, are there any questions? And nobody had a question. And I was my heart was being stirred through this whole lecture and all the faith of all the devotees. I was, really attracted, but also I was confused, like, how does this compute with everything I'm having to go through in my yatra? How can I, is it real? What should I do? I didn't know. I was confused. So he asked any questions, and nobody asked. And then I just put up my hand, and he gave me the choice to the opportunity to speak. And I talked about that. I said that you mentioned that faith in the spiritual master is very essential. It's essential in spiritual life. But I don't have that faith. I had a guru and he fell down. And then he said, oh, that's very unfortunate. I liked that. I liked how he didn't say, okay, well, no, he actually resonated. He acknowledged my pain. Of course, he knew so much about it. He was busy already repairing all the damage, but I didn't know that really. Anyway, he acknowledged my feelings, and he said, well, then you need to. He said, it's unfortunate, but that's because your faith has been distorted. So in time, you will heal, and you will have to find another guru. I said, well, actually, I tried that, but it didn't work. And he said, well, then another. And then people started laughing. I said, I tried that too, but it also didn't work. This is why I didn't bow down to any danda anymore. Excuse me. Anyhow, he was very patient, and he said to me, pray. Oh, he said, yeah, this is very important. Just because right now, you are not ready because your faith is distorted, it doesn't mean that we can change the philosophy. And the philosophy is still that Yasha Prasadat Bhagavad Prasad, Yasha Prasadat Nagati Kutopi. You have to surrender to a living guru, and then you can make spiritual advancement, something like this. This was his point. So then I've said, well, I would love to do that, but I just don't know how to go forward. Then he said, pray to Srila Prabhupada that he will please send me the association of your most advanced disciples. And I liked that. And I thought that was very good advice. And small seed in my heart was like, could that be you? It was too small to act on it, but I was hoping like this. So I don't know exactly the sequence of that visit, but I do remember that he called a meeting, which I attended, my husband and a few other devotees from the European countries who had been under Bhagavan and were going through the same crisis. And he called us in his room and he talked about it. And he showed care, he showed his concern. And this I've noticed over the years that I've been under his shelter, is a constant in Srila Gurudev, being very caring, very concerned, and very able to have deep relationships, loving dealings, he called them in his letters to us, loving dealings with so many persons, so many, not just his disciples or his prospective disciples or his god brothers and not his god sisters. No, everybody. And I mean everybody. He was able, like Ekachakra Prabhu said, that Gurudev told him personally just now, that in his first year of joining, he made 50 devotees. He said that I have this ability. Yeah. And how did he make these people devotees? In my small experience, it's by loving them, by caring for them, by showing care, and whether it was in chastisement at some points, or just like thinking, did you take prasadam, or how are you situated when we just arrived in Vrindavan? Are you comfortable? I mean, the little things, people. The little things. The Vaishnava's heart is very soft. And no matter how some people may look at him, or, you know, have their theories about him, which we will not go into. But many people have, I feel, and still misunderstand the true intentions of His Divine Grace, Tamal Krishna Goswami. And at this time, to go back into the history, excuse me, he took it upon himself, I'm sure not by himself, but he really made it one of his projects, I think, to help and support all these devotees that were, like, you know, going through this crisis of losing their guru in such a shocking way. He befriended is not really the right word, but he cared. He started, actually, he had really never been to Europe before that. Only in the very beginning, when he was traveling with the Sankirtan party, and Hamburg, and, you know, even Holland, maybe he was, you know, just to, in the very early and 67, beginning 70s, but after that, maybe only in England, but the rest of Europe, he had not gone to, maybe also because of the zonal acharya system. But when that stopped, he actually started going to support us, to guide us, not just me and my husband, but Nitai Gaur Sundar and Ananta Rupini in France, Guru Charan and Anuradha, Krishna Loka in Italy. I saw Tredas Prabhu, he was there earlier. I don't know if he's here now. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's Krishna Loka. Haribol. Isn't it true? I mean, he started coming to Italy. He went to Prabhupada Desh. He really took us under his big wings. There's Tredas Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu. So nice to see you, Jai. Yes, so he started, you know, his heart is so large and his compassion was so big that he was actually able to do that, to have a meaningful relationship with, I mean, I'll give you one small example which struck me. It was from one of the newsletters that Radhacharan mostly, but also others, have compiled, which I still hope, Radhacharan Prabhu, if you're listening, I'm always banging his door every few years. Are you going to write the book about it? Because he's got like 30 or 40 newsletters. Anyway, one small example, may not even have been written by him, was that Srila Gurudev, I think it was in Fiji, and he was walking on some beach and he was collecting shells. And later that day or the day after, he was meeting one young girl, I don't know her age, and he gave these shells from his hand to this little girl. And he said, look, I've collected these for you. I mean, maybe I'm sentimental, but such things, they touch my heart. Then I know, I think, a little bit of the fullness of this great devotee. I mean, we can say, oh, so many, if we had to read his biography, we would be reading that the whole day. But his manager, how you call that, list of everything he did as a manager, as a GBC, as a sannyasi, as a guru, you know, it is endless. It's like a, I don't even know the word. It's momentous. It's really amazing how much he did. And this was also actually the first thing. When he came to Amsterdam, yeah, he actually came, and he told us in our face, I've come for the two of you. And we were not even that surrendered yet or anything. We were still like licking our Ritwik wounds, but he came, and there he sat. And he was here for 4 days, Amsterdam, and he came to Radhadesh, and then he told us, now what do you want to do? I've came here, how do you want to fill these days? And I said, my husband said nothing. So I thought I have to say something. I said, maybe we can chant some bhajans. He said, all right, this afternoon, 2 o'clock in my room. So then we gathered some things, you know. I mean, sorry, it's again, I really have to drink. What I wanted to say is something that happened in Amsterdam. I'll quickly go back to the bhajans because that was so nice. In Amsterdam, the Guru Puja or something in the morning program where he was dancing back and forth, and you know, the first thing I really noticed, and I'm sure practically everybody has, but it was new to me, like he's so absorbed. He's completely absorbed. He's like, you can say, in the moment, whatever new age term you want to give it, he was absorbed. He was doing what he was doing, and he was present. And like I was kind of hanging on, doing this, thinking that, you know, considering opportunities. No, he was right there. When it's Guru Puja, Guru Puja. And that worked like a magnet, even to that frazzled little temple where people were just practically, you know, I don't know, I mean, we were a bunch of, you know, it wasn't very organized or very blissful, but his level of engagement, of seriousness, it illumined everybody. Irresistible. Good. So back to Radhadesh now, forward to Radhadesh. So we were sitting there in this room, and I had my harmonium, Nanda Kumar had his cartels, Guru was playing Mridanga, and if you ever noticed that, his Mridanga playing is very, I found it completely soothing. He had this little few licks, which I didn't hear since. I don't know what he was actually doing, but it was like caressing my heart, completely soothing. So he was playing this Mridanga so wonderfully. I was asked to sing. No, he was singing, of course. And then we were responding. And I was really hidden in my sari. And, you know, I was enjoying it, but I was also scared because I thought, here we are. He's a sannyasi. My former guru was also a sannyasi, but he's not anymore a sannyasi. So I got to be really, really invisible here. Now, good luck. I was in front of Tamal Krishna Goswami, and I was not invisible to him. So I was mumbling something, and in the middle of the kirtan, which, yes, we have recorded it, completely crummy, but I got it. He looks at me, you, chant louder. So I was like, okay. He's not afraid. He's not afraid to fall down. He's not afraid to listen to a woman singing. Okay, well, maybe I don't have to be afraid that all that mental Dutch are famous for the intricate minds. Yeah. So I was so happy. He pulled me up like, just sing. Of course, the chanting is the main way to become purified also. So, but I found it, I was so happy in myself inside, like, God, he's not afraid, you know, he's going for it. And he wants me to go for it too. And that really, that was like, you know, turbo, you know, he really empowered us, like, go for it, do it, you know. You used to be preaching, then Bhagavan fell down, doesn't matter, Prabhupada is here, preach, you know. Go on, do books. And he was writing to us. Then things started happening. I took them out of my, look, remember them? Oh God, I'm so glad I kept them. He started writing letters and encouraging us and telling us, oh, how is the book distribution going? And so, I mean, he was inspiring, but he was also a manager. So he wanted us to report, how's it going? And yeah, well, he took our spiritual lives to another stratosphere. And of course, unfortunately, I'm not there. What you see now, this is his Shakti again, which I'm feeling, which I would love to feel more, but yeah, my mind is also still there. So, but I'm so grateful that actually by observing someone like Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami, being ecstatically absorbed in his service, and his service expanded many folds. He said that Srila Prabhupada told him, be a jack of all trades and master of one. The saying is, be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Like if we can do things a little bit, all so many things, then we probably won't be very good in any of them. Not true for him. If I look at the accomplishments of my spiritual master, I can see that it is in all the fields, practically, all kinds. We haven't even touched on his academics. Hopefully tomorrow morning, if you're still here, or afternoon, wherever you are, His Holiness Krishna Swami, who was also, of course, an academic scholar, he will hopefully touch on that. But yeah, we can just see already what we've heard. His service to Srila Prabhupada from day one, practically, of ISKCON. The Samadhi of Srila Prabhupada, how he organized all that, we've heard yesterday from His Holiness Swami. Then his prolific writing, not just drama, but scholarly texts and novels, the Li Kuang-shi book, #1 and #2, which is together with his brother. By the way, he also made into a devotee. I mean, his mother was with it. Whoever comes into his atmosphere, and it could be simply by hearing or seeing, as Narayana or Maharaj said, that simply that one video, gods, demigods, incarnations. The other one, God's competitor. Another one, Raja Vijay, the king of knowledge. Practically 3 videos which have made thousands of people interested and convinced about Krishna consciousness. Yeah, so that is the bigger picture. I'm probably already on my half hour. Yeah, I am. So I should be stopping. I don't want to, but I should, because I have to respect your time. So anyway, maybe there is a question. I don't see any questions so far. No. Let me end my little soapbox session with one other thing, that Srila Gurudev was also very noticing the little things, and he would say things that you wouldn't expect. Also to ladies, he like once said, Rati Manjari, you look like a clown, because I had this makeup. I thought Gurudev is coming. I'm stopping, Guru. I see you. The makeup, I thought it's a momentous occasion. My Guru is coming. I had my silk saris, and I had 2 layers of makeup. I had I don't remember what I was doing. I never knew it. What is it? Turquoise and pink or something. So I went, Jai Gurudeva, and later on he said, Rati Manjari, you look like a clown. You should study these magazines, of ladies, how they put makeup. I mean, who would expect it? What a sannyasi cares about that? You know, once he also asked me, those bracelets you're wearing, are they real? Are they real stones or are they plastic? I thought, what does he care? But he wanted us to wear nice things, you know, not look like cheapos. Okay, that was it. That's the lock on the mouth. Back in my hosting thing. Thank you so much for your kind attention and your smiles, which I saw here and there. Dhruva Prabhu, that's it, right? That's the morning session.
We've got one last request, Rati Manjari Mataji. Firstly, thank you so much for sharing
Hare Krishna.
all your wonderful service to all the Vaishnavas and in particularly Srila Gurudev. It's wonderful to hear and it's so touching to the heart and everything. Now I know not to dress like a cheapo, you know, and stuff when I do that.
That word is mine, but I mean, that's the thing that I got from that, yeah.
Okay. Is your son around? Myself, Ekachakra, Prabhu, and Jahnava Mataji will sing happy birthday.
Let me go get him. Yeah? Yes. Yeah, you tell him why I should get him. Nitai?
It's Nitai's birthday today. So Rati Manjari's son, with Rati Manjari being around since the 80s and doing so much service, I think it's such a great, nice treat for the son. That we just sing him a nice happy birthday. I think due to the mute, it will become a bit clustered. So just the three of us can sing. The three of us.
But then maybe everybody can say Hari Bol later or something. Yes, he's 25 today. And it's another story. I didn't pull out of my vaults, but this boy is, Srila Gurudev wrote to me that he is the mercy of the spiritual master because Gurudev asked us to have a child and we did, and he's 25 today. So the fact that this coincides, I see as a special mercy of Gurudev, letting me know that he knows and he cares. And it's a big project. Go sit down, Nitai. Happy birthday, boy. There he is.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Krishna, Nitai, Charan. We just wanted to sing you a very happy birthday. So are you ready? Yeah. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nitai. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
We wish you the very best in your spiritual life. And as your mother explained, you're the mercy of Srila Gurudev. You're part of our family always. Stay in touch with us. And if there's any way we can serve you, please let us know. Ekachakra, Prabhu, would you like to add anything, please, to this young man?
Yes, I met him many years ago. He has changed a bit.
Changing bodies.
Changing body. Nice to meet you again, Prabhu. Nice to meet you.
Well, thank you, everybody. I didn't expect this, so for me, it's a nice surprise. Lots of people who have good wishes for me. That's always nice. So I wish you all the best as well. Thank you for this kind gesture. And I hope you have a wonderful day and celebrating Tamal Krishna Goswami.
Yeah.
And me also a little bit. So thank you for that.
Have a wonderful day and please come and visit us in the UK. Yeah.
Who knows? Someday.
After COVID. It's a standing invitation. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Ciao.
Hi. Wow, that's what a mother wants, especially a single mother. I want the blessings of the Vaishnavas. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's one of my main services, this boy. But I gladly do it. Okay, so this is it, yeah? This was the morning session. We will be back together if you have time. I hope you do. This afternoon. For the exact times, please check your schedule. Otherwise it becomes confusing. But it should be in about like 3 hours or so, isn't it? 2 hours, Dhruva?
Maybe around 4 hours, starting with Jai Pataka Maharaj. And Maharaj's schedule is very tight because of his health. So if everybody could please be on time, 4 o'clock UK time, whichever that works in your recipe.
And now it is how long? What time is it now?
Now it's 12.
Okay, so in 4 hours, all right? So please don't miss it. It's the TKG Nectar is churning.
Yeah.
And we only need a little bit to get strengthened, but when we get a lot, we feel like beyond, you know. So please honor us with your time and your presence. It's very enlivening. And yeah, take your nice lunch or dinner or whatever, and see you in a few hours.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Rati Manjari Mataji. Hare Krishna.
My pleasure. Vanchakaupatarubhyascha kripasinamyajavatitanam avanamyavaishnamyanamo namaha. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol. Jai.